Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 66 of the Titanforge podcast. My name is Ratnus, joined by Tuttles.
Yo, what's up? We're back.
And Trell.
What up? Good morning.
Yo. All right, so this week we've got a kind of a news episode. Got a bunch of topics, including some very large news, of course, that I'm sure everybody's heard, and then a bunch of smaller Shadowlands news that may have slipped through the cracks, some of which, though, is actually pretty important for Mythic Plus, particularly if you were somebody who likes to play Mythic Plus on every week, even when the game tells you not to, with the affix system. There's some big news in there.
Also the Conduits, which I've not a ton known about how to get rank 7 Conduits yet, but we can speculate a little bit on that as well.
Yes, some Conduit speculation for sure, because Conduits are, I think, one of the systems that has kind of most strayed from the, vision that they first put forward in the beta, right? Because the version they first put forward in the beta was like Conduits that when you replace them, the original one is destroyed and you had to go and get it again if you wanted to use it again.
That was bad.
That system was met with pretty universal knee-jerk, like a big backlash kind of right off out of the gates. And so that led them to scrap it and redo it. But it makes it the system that is the most different from that first version we got in beta. And therefore still the most is, still changing about it. And there are some, I think, questions that, because it's still being worked on, weren't really considered from the start. They didn't even have like levels of the Conduits in the game for incredibly long time, so nobody knew how to even be able to obtain higher levels of these Conduits. But yeah, now they've kind of been implemented. But dude, some of them scale so differently than others as well. Like, some Conduits get like 4 times better going from rank 1 to rank 15 or whatever, and some get like 20% better, right? It's like whatever.
Well, I mean, like, notably, the Endurance and Finesse Conduits, some of those are just silly with what they give. Like, it'll be, like, additional DR and an ability, and it'll just be like, yeah, all right, rank 7, I get, I don't know, 20% more DR, or it's like the kick reduction one for Mage. Like, rank 7 is, like, 8 seconds off their kick versus rank 1 being, like, 2 seconds or something. And this is, like, that's okay.
Yeah, that's pretty big in the end, yeah. Some of them are, like, speaking of Mage, one of the mages I was playing with gained a 21% single target increase from looting a rank 5 Conduit for Iceland.
Nice. Yeah, dude.
Did you say 20%?
Yeah, 20% single target. Like, it just increases Iceland's damage by 20% when it's that level, I think, and that's like half their single target damage.
That's about 1 Moonkin to convert to Tuttle's numbers.
Yeah. It's like half of Vengeance Demon Hunter.
Yeah. Icelands. I've seen some screenshots of damage meters though where Icelands is. I saw somebody tweet. I forget who it was, man, but they had a good tweet where they tweeted a damage meter with Icelands doing like 70% of the mage's damage, and they were like, "Did Blizzard rename Ignite in Shadowlands?"
Oh yeah, that was Wildy, I think.
Okay, yeah, that sounds right. Yeah, very funny tweet. I love funny tweets, man. There's been so many good ones recently about Shadowlands. It's great. Okay, so Conduits, that's something we'll talk about. Before we talk about that, though, we have the real elephant in the room, which is the Shadowlands delay. This was, I think, a very surprising piece of news, but a couple days ago, Blizzard tweeted out their update on Shadowlands, which, so I guess if you've been living under a rock and haven't seen anything about this, Shadowlands delayed to some point later this year. So still this year, but no longer that first, like very end of October, right, date. So it'll be
October 27th, yeah, whatever it was before.
Yeah, so I guess if they delayed it by 1 week, it would be November 3rd. But I think given the fact that they're delaying it, it's likely it will be at least a couple weeks of pushback.
Okay.
Yeah.
So them delaying it, like, they have to offer things like refund, like just due to federal guidelines, you have to be able to offer like refunding of the game, and like there's this whole thing that goes into actually delaying the game and not being able to release the game on that 27th. So I think that there is no way that the game only gets delayed 1 week because of that. I think that it ends up getting delayed multiple weeks, and how far is TBD, like they said. I think the fact that they didn't put a date on the delay too is like kind of surprising.
They didn't tell us when it was delayed to. Yeah, so I guess that probably
That's
implies
problematic.
Well, it probably implies that there's still some uncertainty internally about when the game will be ready to come out, right? Like that, you know, if
They've got to be not
Mhm.
sure how long it's going to take to finish like one critical system or something. Like something's got to be majorly not ready to delay it at least a month in my mind.
Yeah, so this throws a lot of potential things into flux. Of course, if you booked off vacation days, that's something we'll talk about being that's a kind of I think one of the most legitimate sources of consternation around this is if you booked off vacation days.
Well, people book off vacation days for expansion launches like every single expansion launch, like once every 2 to once every 3 years, right? And it's like it getting delayed is kind of annoying, but it's early enough out to where you should be able to get those back, right?
Yeah, it depends a little bit on where
depends
you
on your
live.
job.
Yeah,
Depends on your job, but
a different situation.
Corporate America people will be able to get those back.
it depends. Like I mean, there are a lot of cases where maybe getting those days unvacationing them is going to be possible, but like you needed to have already requested December vacation because that's pretty heavily sought after in a lot of cases.
Yeah.
So we'll see. I mean, definitely like there are going to be people. There will certainly be at least some people who miss out on taking off a weekend or whatever or a week to blast Shadowlands that would have been able to otherwise, and that I think is definitely unfortunate.
It's an unfortunate situation, definitely. Do
Do
you guys think it was for the better of the game?
I think so. And I was just going to make one more comment on the vacation stuff. December vacations are really hard to book because usually it's like gone off of seniority in the company. Whoever's been there the longest gets the Christmas vacation or the Thanksgiving vacation, for example. So I might even get screwed over because of that, but we'll see.
Aren't you like an old man?
Dude, I'm 27.
Have you been working at your company since like the dawn of time?
Dude, Trell's like he's a boomer in WoW, and then he just goes out into the real world and he's a zoomer again. It's like yeah.
It's like I'm not even old. Why do I get called a boomer now?
Oh my god, he's so crotchety.
Did you mow your lawn this morning at 6 a.m.?
I don't have a lawn, bro.
Wow, he's mowed it so much it's all gone. That is remarkable. Right. So to answer your question about whether I think the delay is a good thing, yeah. So I think there's been a lot of people have made these tweets, right? Like, please Blizzard delay the game. It's not ready. I was really shocked to see this happen. I didn't think it was likely to happen. Nor did I, until recently, I didn't actually think it was necessary to do it for like bug fix reasons. So I was kind of in this place where I thought the issues I had with the expansion were like conceptual ones and not ones that more time on the expansion would necessarily fix. I still think that that's likely true, that like stuff like the Covenant system, it's unlikely to see major changes until it just gets in the hands of a lot of people, and a lot of people are like, hang on.
Yeah.
So
I mean, it makes me wonder why they delayed it. Okay, so historically, the expansion just ships with bugs, like
right.
Legion,
WoD,
and BFA,
WoD release,
Warlords of Draenor. The servers were off for a full week. Like it was that bad.
WoD, if you booked your vacation days off, like the people talk about vacation days, but like a lot of people were unhappy about the vacation days they took off for WoD and like sat loading screens and then tried to do their first garrison quest and couldn't succeed for
dude,
the first couple days.
So the precedent being set for those being just so terrible, and then it's like, I'm really shocked that they didn't just ship the expansion with all the bugs and then like periodically bug fix everything until like Raid is released, right?
So
and
the
like,
question
I would have expected Raid to be released without necessarily too many bugs in the game because it would be like aggressively trying to fix everything. But I wonder why they would have pushed back the whole entire expansion launch, because that's a big decision.
So the question is like, is this more bugs? Is this version, in their opinion, like, do they think that this is buggier beyond a line that they didn't think WoD or BFA or Legion was in prior to release? Or is it a question of the line has moved, right? Are they looking at things now and they're like, hang on a sec, we don't want to release a game with this many bugs? Because either of those cases, it's good that they delay the game, but the second case is one where I think it's a lot more favorable, like long term. That's a really exciting shift in philosophy, I think, for people that like to see games come out.
I also think that the line has moved, because if the game was released and it was like there were some really bad bugs in the game, like mobs evading and like just like I've had it recently where mobs have just Theater of Pain was bugged beyond like playability for a little while, where everything was evading. And recently, I don't remember what dungeon it was, but there was like full trash packs. Oh, it was Sanguine Depths. There were full trash packs evading inside of Sanguine Depths where you just like couldn't damage them for a little bit, and then eventually be able to hit them for a little bit of damage, and then they start evading again. It's like stuff like that is pretty problematic and results in a bad player experience. But I did expect the expansion to still get shipped, so I'm happy to see that they're at least trying to fix a lot of the problems. But like you said, core system's probably not going to get touched outside of fixing what is deemed to be broken.
Personally, I don't think there's a ton of bugs in the main systems currently, but there are so many dungeon bugs. Like taking the portal during the last boss of the other side sometimes just sends you through the floor and you die. Actually, that boss just developed
I missed
all
that
kinds
one.
of bugs this week.
Oh, really? Those are this week's bugs?
Yeah.
I think
It
also
doesn't teleport you back either.
just like questing in Shadowlands has been a little hit or miss. I've only done maybe an hour and a half's worth of quests to like get covenants ready and stuff. Besides an alpha when I played through all of the Bastion Zone, but even though in the quests that I have done, I've encountered like game breaking sequence break bugs where like I have to wait until they fix a quest a week later before I can continue and actually unlock Night Fae on a guy or whatever, or like make a new guy to try and fix my phase.
That stuff has been fixed for a while now, and the last time I leveled through, the only thing that was actually buggy about the leveling was the end quest being able to select the Night Fae Covenant. And so I haven't leveled through since, so they could have broken some stuff since then, but I am led to believe that it is largely okay currently for leveling, but they still haven't added in, like, there's a lot of NYI like scenarios, like the visuals, it'll be like they still have like the big X and it'll be like coming soon to a theater near you.
Right, which is something that maybe it's just a case of like the game was in a similar state 2 months out than it was in previous expansions, but because they can't have all their developers like in person, pushing out those last 2 months, they're not actually able to get things from that state to the same place they would have been able to do within 2 months or something. I'm not sure.
I'm also assuming there's got to be like a lot of bureaucracy and pushback on how they tune classes, because there's so many different scenarios they have to tune them for. I feel like they've had to have like several meetings before they push a certain tuning patch for like balance druid, for example. Like, all right, we finally got balance to the lowest possible point. In 4 meetings, we might be able to buff them 10%.
They've actually, I think they've nerfed literally every single covenant straight across the board for every single class to make it like substantially worse as well. So they've reduced power of covenants literally straight across the board.
Which I made a video about this when I made a video reacting to because reaction videos, that's good content. When I made one reacting to the delay, that was a point that I was making, was that like people talk about it being impossible to balance covenants, but I think it's not impossible, right? If you just make it so that none of the buttons are like that much better than Solar Wrath to press, then they're all then they will all be balanced, and it's like
makes the system feel like shit, because like you have like 4 bad choices, but at the same time it does make them balanced.
And I think that's better than having one awesome choice for M+ and one awesome choice for Raid, and like you can't swap between them, right? If there's a button that's super important to have and super impactful to push, and only a quarter of the people who play the game can have it, then we're in a situation where like no matter how cool that button is for some people, there are going to be a lot of players who its existence is a problem, right? So like instead, when they tune it down, when they water everything down, when they make all these buttons barely above replacement level to press, I think that is actually the easiest way to balance these things, and maybe the only way to balance them. But it is sad to see cool buttons that I was excited to press turn into whatever balls.
I love your use of replacement level there. Buttons above replacement.
I mean, it's because once it gets below a certain point, you don't even bother pressing it, right? There's some covenant abilities that are already kind of like that.
I mean, they're lower DPET that are just literally not worth pressing. The global, like, it's just not worth. I think that it makes the system feel like shit, especially as like a core system of what like Shadowlands is supposed to be. You guys remember like at BlizzCon they were talking about like making class identity and spec identity a little bit more of a thing, and I felt like the covenant system was at least a way to make class identity a little bit more apparent. But not if the buttons are like really bad. I think that it is overall healthier for the playability of the game, though, to have. I don't know, Covenants only be a 5% damage increase as opposed to like a whatever 20% damage increase.
Yeah, I think that's true, and I think lots of Covenants are that bad already comparatively to like the abilities like the Wild Spirits for Marksman that give 30% more damage on AoE. You know,
Well,
but,
that's
like,
stupid.
I mean, there's
they
no way
did a
that
lot of
makes
work
it.
ahead of
You know, right? Like that. Those things are living with on borrowed time. The things like that one, right?
Oh, definitely, yeah. I just think it's possible. I think they should take them all down to like 5% or less value overall, so that we can not have to worry so much about random tuning passes later.
Right.
Don't worry, dude. I still have that link ability that I have to link up with another DPS and give them a bunch of my damage. I feel like that one's gonna be my best Covenant. I'm gonna mauled for literally a full patch. That was so unfun to play.
Yeah, you get juice boxes.
So one other impact that this release date movement has, and again, we don't know the actual release date, is it has implications for the raid, and not just Race to World First. I made my video and I talked a little bit about this, and a lot of people in the comments were like, "I can't believe that you think the Race to World First should affect things," but like it doesn't actually affect the Race to World First very much at all, because those guys are just going to take their time off whenever, right? Like it doesn't matter, right? Complexity limit. If you made them raid at like 3 a.m., you know, on any of the days of the year, they will do it, right? But like normal guilds, you know, normal progression guilds, that if your raid is happening over the holidays, that breaks apart most guilds' ability to do any kind of progression into Mythic. If you're trying to play on Christmas or whatever.
A lot of guilds take like 2 weeks off around Christmas time, normally whenever raids are released around then. I think the last time we saw... Okay, so assuming that the raid gets released before Christmas, we saw a similar release cycle in Antorus where the raid was released like early December. Maybe no, it was late November. It was like the last week in November, I want to say it was released. Like that's not great, but like it did end up happening, and the guilds that were racing for World First were fine. But literally every other guild had to take like 2 weeks off for Christmas because people are just gone, right? Some things are more important than World of Warcraft raiding.
Yeah, so I really hope that regardless of when the expansion comes out, like I hope that they have the expansion release whenever is best for the expansion to come out, you know, based on whatever reasons, and you can just delay the raid a little bit, right? Like if that whatever the 4-week normal window would cause it to release over the holidays, just push the raid to 5 or 6 weeks later than the expansion launch instead, and have it come out on January 5th regardless. And
yeah, so I think right now that there are currently like 2 pretty highly speculated about dates that the expansion and the raid will end up coming out. The first one is like the expansion is released November 17th with the raid release on December 8th, which would give you like a Christmas raid tier. Like you would like guilds would be raiding over
except
Christmas
for the Race to World First, right? The Race to World First would be done by then. They would all be out there, but like everybody below World Top 10 is gaming over the holidays.
Alternatively, expansion releases December 8th and the raid releases January 5th, which both of those keep it in mind where the expansion is still released beginning of year. Obviously, Blizzard is an American corporation, and Thanksgiving is a holiday that has to be looked around at least somewhat. So they're not going to release the expansion that week. And it's like the January 5th raid release would be definitely one that I would be more favorable to, but that's also because of just my real life schedule. At the same time, though, like you are probably going to end up having to play World of Warcraft over Christmas break and like get your Mythic Zeros in over like the week of Christmas, which is annoying for some people.
One of the benefits
not even doable
for I guess like World Top 100, World Top 200 raiders or whatever is that with the old release date, there was a very good chance that we were going to be done by Christmas and like into a holding pattern cycle where you could not really need anything to log into the game for. But right now it looks like most possible release dates are going to involve most players not being done around Christmas and having like M0s that they could be doing. Now, that being said, M0s over the holidays are actually, for a lot of players, you can do a lot more Mythic Zeros over holidays than you can on a normal week, right? Like, you know, it's harder to play on any given specific time, right? If you're trying to play like Thursday at 5 or whatever, that might be when grandma's having whatever dinner thing, and you can't miss that. But like, you get more total free hours over the holiday week for many people than a normal week. So
that is absolutely true. I mean, but a lot of people aren't home. Part of it is that problem too.
This time around, though, particularly, I think a lot of
Good
people
call.
are going to be near a computer. Nobody's going to take like a, Australian beach holiday or whatever. They won't let us in
I think
anyway.
there's something to be said too about Mythic Zero Week is like it has limited content, and so you level up your character, you get your Mythic Zeros done, and then that character is basically done for the rest of the week. So like you can get that done in 3 days, and any of the 3 out of the 7 days where you're not traveling or on holiday, then you could actually get it done, and it wouldn't affect you too much, at least, as opposed to like a raid releasing on that week, which would be pretty bad, I think.
Yeah, end of the day, we'll just have to react to whatever they do, and there will be some people who their circumstances they're going to be worse off as a result of whatever date they pick. Like there are people out there for every possible date they could release this thing. They're like anytime but then, not December 8th. That's when my whatever thing is. I can't
that December 8th release. I look at that, I'm like, oh my god, my finals. I'm just like, holy shit.
Right. So it's all some folks are gonna get screwed by the circumstance regardless, but like on the whole, the delay of the game, I think, to have it release as good as possible is we haven't really talked about this, but like this was not something that I thought was within the range of possibilities until it happened. I thought like the release date was effectively set in stone when they announced it, and to see that wasn't the case and that they're willing to take clearly there's got to be some short-term losses associated with doing this, right? Like unless they think they could have, like, that releasing the game would have been so catastrophic for them in the state that it was in that they would have lost money off that. It seems like at least over the short term, they would have made more money just hitting their original release date, not having to issue these refunds, not having to incur this PR cost of having a high-profile delay like this.
I mean, I don't know, Trell, what were you about to say?
Let alone all the advertisements they probably put out for the game in all kinds of different countries. Like all that's pretty much gone to waste, at least in the short term. And they also, I'm sure, have investors that are relying on that release date ahead of time.
Oh, dude, their stocks. I always say their stock price actually tanked whenever they released that.
Oh, I'm sure. It did, yeah.
Oh, dude, is it time?
And I think it'll
up
probably rebound back up.
Activision.
Yeah. It I want to say, it dropped like heavy whenever they announced it. But
okay, yeah, dude, it's down. It was like, when did they announce this? What day?
Yeah, it dropped
Wednesday?
like. Yeah, they're down like $5 on their stock.
Yeah, like 4% or something over that. I mean, it went up yesterday and the day before.
COD and Candy Crush carry Activision Blizzard pretty hard in terms of their revenue. WoW's not that much, but
WoW's a lot of the prestige of the, at least the Blizzard side of things, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Whatever. I don't know anything about stocks. Good.
There's just a lot of things like locking them into contracts and things that are really hard to change at this point in time, I'm sure. And it's like, honestly, it's pretty impressive to see them make such a big decision like that for the good of the game instead of just rolling it out and trying to get profit.
Yeah, I mean,
I wonder why.
I think that, well, I've always thought that, like, the better the game is, the more money they're going to make, right? Like, everybody always has these, like, conspiracy theories about, like, corruption launched with the plan of making a vendor 4 months later so that they could, like, prolong the amount of time people stay subbed or whatever. You hit them with the RNG system first, and then when everybody's getting sick of that, you improve the system, right? You release it bad intentionally, and then you improve it later or whatever. You do that with essences or whatever. All these things, but I don't believe. I don't think those conspiracy theories have too much merit, because I think that, like, if you just release the game in the good state, in the best state possible, that is going to make you the most money. I think. I think that patch 9.3, for instance, would have retained more people if the corruption system hadn't just turned off so many people initially. And similarly, I think that, like, essences being account wide would have been good just from the start. And, if you just release the game in as good a state as possible and make as many decisions as you can to optimize for the quality of the game, that is also how you're going to make the most money. So in that way, this delay could be, hopefully is going to make them more money as well, because hopefully it's going to be a better game.
Well, Shadowlands launch, expansion launches are the biggest time of influx of new players and influx of just, like, old returning players. And player retention is, like you were saying, one of their most important metrics that they're even looking at. So if the game releases and is buggy, the odds of you retaining those players that are not already just going to play the game by default, like all three of us are going to play the game regardless, right? but the odds of other people like continuing to play the game if the game is released and is not great is really low, right?
There are people who check out of expansions after 2 weeks or whatever. They're like, okay, this ain't it for me. Or after 1 week, they'll play through whatever. They'll play through WoD or whatever the first week, and then they'll just be like, yeah, this one isn't it. Call me in Legion or whatever. So if Blizzard wants to try and make sure that they don't miss out on 2 years worth of sub revenue from those people, it does behoove them to have the re-expansion launch as good as possible. But I don't know. It is still, I think, a surprising move that I did not think was in their range of possibilities.
For sure, yeah.
I just thought it was too big of I just thought it was too big a revenue loss. So they wouldn't do it.
All right. I think that's about as much reasonable speculation as we can do about the Shadowlands delay. Let's move on to talking. So we've got some dungeon scaling or dungeon tuning and conduit scaling to get to. But first, it's tip of the week. My tip of the week is that in the Maw, you cannot mount, but
they changed that.
There's the Torghast mount you can get, right? That will let you mount in the Maw. But the first, for the first week or whatever, you're not going to have access to that. If you're not a Worgen who can do the running wild thing, that works there, and you can go mount speed or whatever with that. You're going to want to have a druid friend, all right? A druid friend. And you may have been looking at like the tuning and think there's no need to have any druid friends, and it looks like that's the case. But for the purposes of movement through the Maw, it is going to be good to have a druid friend. So if you look, there's been a lot of kind of big mistakes that certain people have been making. Like if you look here, Now has this tweet about remember whenever you're having a bad day, there's still people who plan on maining Moonkin in Shadowlands, right? These kind of tweets. And you put these things up, but you got to be careful, right? Because if you don't want to antagonize those Moonkin, you're going to need them for that first week in the Maw. So just be careful. Don't burn those bridges yet. It'll be safe to once you get that Torghast mount, you're done with druids for the expansion. You can just delete them from your friends list or whatever. But until then, they can save you a couple minutes moving throughout the Maw. So stay friends with one or two.
Yo, fuck you.
Tells us all.
He's so bad.
This is also a inadvertent buff to Resto Druids, because all their tank friends are now going to turn to their Resto Druid friends and say, hey, I need a mount for the first week in the Maw.
Yeah.
At Tears.
He's a Moonkin main.
He plays what we make him play. He'll play whatever. But we might make him play Warlock, man.
Yeah, let him play Moonkin. Leave him alone.
I don't know. All right, Charles, what is your tip of the week?
Oh man, I could not come up with a tip this week. Live WoW is so
dude,
dead.
It is such a struggle. That's why I go with memes.
Yeah, like the Hearthstone one that you gave us.
The Hearthstone one, that was a legitimate tip. That one was like a narrow but legitimate tip. Yeah.
My tip was just about my tweet I made. I had some pretty good timing on the talk to your boss about moving your vacation tweet. I think literally everybody in the world that works a full-time job was doing that when I tweeted that. But my real tip is that you should sneak in some donuts to your boss and then introduce the question of when you're going to move your vacation to. Unfortunately, we don't know a date yet, so it's kind of awkward.
Oh, that's really awkward, yeah.
Yeah, that is actually hopefully something that they can resolve as soon as possible. I mean, they would tell us if they knew, right? Like, there's no reason to keep it a question mark, right?
That is the problem, is that they would I'm surprised that they didn't have a date that they knew that the expansion was going to come out on, like after the delay.
Yeah, I wonder how wide that range of potential dates still is, given that we're at most only still like 2 months out.
Pre-patch is coming out the 13th.
Yeah, pre-patch is very soon, right? That's
October 13th.
Yeah, very
10
very
days
soon.
10 days from when this is being recorded.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's wild. Definitely empathize for anybody working on getting your vacation days. I hope everybody who's in that situation works it out. Also, if you're somebody who ends up not being able to get vacation days off, I guess my thing for you is it's going to be okay, right? Like,
yeah, it's actually okay.
If you miss out on playing 12 hours a day for the first week or whatever, and you're not actually going to be behind by that much long term, unless you're trying to level like 7 alts to race to World First in. You don't actually need all the time before the raid comes out. Like, you just play a couple hours a night and you're vibing. You're going to be totally fine.
I should have said on my tip. I took 2 weeks off for BFA launch, and that was a mistake. Like there was nothing to do the second week. Of BFA.
And BFA
there's
there
even
was
less
AP.
for Shadowlands.
Yeah, Shadowlands. There's not even AP to be grinding.
So
Right.
I guess a little side tangent. Basically you level through, you get level 60. The first thing you do once you hit level 60 is you do like an hour and a half quest line to be able to unlock your full covenant, right? From there you go and do Torghast a couple of times to the point where you get like your 100 soul ash for the week. Beyond that, there's not really much that you do for that week. So you do your mythic, I guess heroic dungeons, right? Are Mythic Zeros open the first week of the expansion? I don't think they are.
So.
I think the answer.
Oh, maybe not.
I think the answer is no.
Following day, I think. I remember doing them on a fresh 120. So
I think so as well. Yeah, I think I remember doing them in BFA.
Yeah, I think they opened the following day so people couldn't sneak in the.
I think Mythic Zeros are open after the first reset. I want to say heroic dungeons are open immediately. So then after that you go and you clear your map for world quests. I would highly recommend doing this with a group this time around. Actually, world quests, there are a lot less of them, but they're actually pretty.
They're obnoxious. Some of them are toxic, man. There's some that are.
And then beyond that, there's not a ton you do. So I don't know. I would say that you are done for the first week within 12 to 15 hours of gameplay.
Yeah,
maybe a little bit longer.
And even if you can't commit that many hours the first week, you're still you're actually not going to be long term behind.
Like AP.
Yeah, right. I mean, even AP, you weren't really. It wasn't that bad to miss the first week on.
That's not true. You have to be able to get Torghast done for the Soul Ash. But
yeah, so ideally you can do that, but the other stuff is much more.
The world quests and the mythic, I would say the Mythic Zeros are almost mandatory too, but maybe not.
But even if you miss those, you will catch up. You'll be fine. You'll be okay. Particularly depending on what rating level you're trying to hit, you're going to be okay. You'll be comfortably geared. So I guess don't. I guess there's a big fear of missing out that you gotta keep in check. Almost anytime you're experiencing that emotion, it's usually. There's usually more fear there than there should be.
Shout out FOMO.
All right, let's move on to Tettles' clip of the week. What do we got going on here, Tettles?
Dude, Bone Spike is a very powerful rogue ability and was bugged for a little bit on the beta. I was also running in short supply of clips of the week, but here we have a clip from twitch.tv/I'mFiredUp where there are some rogues in his group that are doing infinite damage. And the reason that they're doing the reason that this is happening is because the blobs that are in the first boss room in Plaguefall don't actually die, so they're able to keep the bone spikes on them. Yeah,
very, very epic.
I think this is fixed now, right?
Sure. I would suspect it is. That's a pretty game breaking bug right there. I did see that there is a bug right now with hunter pets doing raid encounter abilities for 500k DPS and shit. But I think that's another bug that I've seen recently. But
yeah, you could go and tame Guarm from.
And he does boss mechanics.
Yeah, he would just do the raid AOE damage on whatever pack you're fighting as your pet.
And there's also another bug in Necrotic Wake where you're able to use the hammer infinitely or something, right?
Oh yeah, man, there's so many new bugs this week. Yeah, in Necrotic Wake, the whole party can basically pick up hammers eventually, and you can just spam a 50k hit single target throughout the dungeon. So
very cool.
If you see some +20 Necrotic Wakes pop up this week, don't believe it.
So in addition to those unintentional dungeon tuning changes, there are some intentional changes to how dungeons operate. Let's take a quick look here. We have a Wowhead article. And right near the top, we have the big piece of news. Grievous nerfed by about 50%. This is not from the BFA version. Again, Grievous on Shadowlands was different than in BFA. So this is... it was hitting harder for most cases.
Yes.
So this nerf, I think, should bring it to be easier than BFA Grievous, or about the same, depending on the level, right?
It's hard to say.
It'll be about the same. I think probably about a 15, if I really had to guess. Probably it's still a little bit harder once you start getting higher. But I think it is easier to clear off stacks.
Didn't Corey May say last week that it doesn't scale above 15, the Grievous number?
That's a
So
good
I'm
point,
wondering,
actually.
I can't remember if it's actually just stopping at 15 or what, but if it does, I think it's in a good spot because it's basically tuned to like current Grievous and BFA, but you can also remove stacks while you're low health from direct heals. So
Yeah,
it
I mean,
actually
I think that taking affixes like Grievous and Bursting and really nerfing them in that like level 1 to 10 key range is a good thing to do because those affixes were nasty if you had like an undergeared healer in BFA. Dude, could you imagine you're just trying to do like a weekly 10 key on your eye level 380 paladin guy in BFA or whatever, and you're playing with a bunch of like 440 DPS that blow up the pack.
Yeah.
And just, it's checkmate, right? You can't heal those people. So I think it's nice that the affixes in the lower keys get scaled to be a little bit easier there because man, bursting in particular,
I think so.
that's rough in low keys.
Yeah, I mean, just healer power being substantially lower is going to make it harder to be able to heal off the stacks of Grievous, or like get people topped over 90%, especially relative to current iterations of BFA. But like there are now ways to you don't have your party in a full 4 stack of Grievous like Volcall would just like perma have you in.
All right, we also have some dungeon-specific tuning adjustments. Here's the list of things that changed for the other side. Any of these changes seem particularly notable to either of you?
You know, a lot of these are pretty nice to see because they're big nerfs to a lot of these bosses that needed them, and I didn't expect this to happen until like maybe once the game was live, honestly. Based on how BFA went. But I think several of the bosses, I can't remember the specific ones, were reduced by like 33% on their damage. One of them notable was the Sanguine Depths first boss.
All right, let's
I don't know the
go
boss names yet.
take a look at that. Chyrixus the Voracious. Sever. Is it Chyrixus?
I don't know.
Chyrexus?
But anyways, that guy's not even just the smash that he does that got nerfed by 33%, but the balls explosion needs a nerf as well. That guy is brutal.
Yeah, he does a lot of damage.
They also buffed the Venthyr ability in Sanguine Depths. Seems reasonable to me. That one, we were talking last week about it being pretty unimpactful in that dungeon.
Yeah,
it's just hard to use, I think, right?
Yeah,
it's definitely hard to use.
I think that was my favorite one conceptually. When we were first talking about the Covenant buffs, this was the one I was most like, okay, I'm down with this one. So it's nice to see it getting a little bit of power bump.
The other side, Wazala, now you're able to use your death, like the death gate, as many times as you want. That's pretty nice.
Yeah, so it's gonna be like the Rosticon fight in bot a little bit, right? A little bit.
No,
kind of.
There's with the death realm and the living realm.
Nope, not at all. Basically, you go to different sides of the room, and the gate like teleports you to different sides of the room. And you would be like, okay, so like if you don't kill an ad, you would really want to use that gate again to go to that ad that you killed previously because you didn't kill him last time. Because after you kill him, you then click a totem, and then Juan Zombie comes down and zaps Muezala for a large portion of his health.
Right. This was but is this the boss fight still where your damage is largely irrelevant on the boss, or is that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that is that guy.
Like
if you
like Alunza, right?
Yeah, basically you want to be able to face him in one intermission instead of 2, so you send the whole group to all 4 different ads. There's 4 total portals instead of 8 now. That's the change.
Okay.
So like your tanking healer could take the same portal to the far right ad. 1 DPS can go to the nearest right ad. 1 DPS can go to the far left ad, and blah blah blah. But the fight is currently broken, so we can't test it perfectly.
You can't do anything currently.
The portals only work properly if you pull the boss from the north side of the room. The boss actually can be pulled from east, west, north, or south side of the ring around the dungeon. And so when you come out of the last wing currently, you have to reset the boss and then go to the north side and pull him again to do it properly.
Oh, well, the boss also doesn't teleport you back to him after the portal phase, right?
Yeah, that's also, but he should be teleporting people after you click your ad back to wherever the boss ends up, because he's.
I heard that was a problem, but the change to the Death Gate being able to be used by multiple players and like just being used unlimited times is nice.
First
the
boss,
the rest of the nerfs to the other side were like needed too.
There's also Miss Eternus Scythe, the first boss, no longer gonna just murder your Moonkins when their Moonfire ticks on the thing with the reflect. So it's now just a big DR instead. Very reasonable.
It makes the damage check even tighter on that boss, though. So as soon as that 80% DR goes up, you basically can't finish the boss. You have to have committed to the tree ad instead. the Droman guy. So you like really have to make a good decision on which boss you want to burn when both ads are low.
Well, I think that's actually a great point, because you're able to still commit to the boss if you really want to, but you're not punished by a lightning shield if you mess up, right?
It's not just lightning shield, but like a lightning shield that reflects dots as well, right? Which is
that was brutal.
It's 10 times worse, and if you make a call last second to not commit, you're still dead to your dots with it being like that. Stitch Flash has also gotten a little bit of a buff here.
A mechanical change, yeah. So
it's
previously,
sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say it makes it worse for Tyrannical. What were you gonna say?
I think it's better overall with the changes they made. So previously, if someone were to screw up and miss a hook on the boss and he's still up there casting stuff at random people, the Abomination would instantly spawn and come screw up the tank. And that would cause an overlap where 2 Abominations would be up at the same time, like no matter what you would do. So if someone missed the hook, it was basically a wipe. But now it's more forgiving. If someone misses 1 hook, I think it's doable, and you only have a small overlap where there's 2 Abominations if people didn't finish the first one.
Okay, that part is definitely better, like substantially better. I think the escape being able to occur multiple times is like way worse, because previously, like this boss wouldn't be that bad for Tyrannical. Like you get like 1 up phase like normally, and you would just get like a second phase anyways. And that's going to probably be normalized for Fortified and Tyrannical unless you would kill him all the way through, which not really reasonable with normal people gear. But with now him doing multiple escapes based on his energy, that is not ideal.
Yeah, that's a scaling problem for sure. Just like Great Captain Lockwood and Siege of Borealis, it's going to end up being like that.
Because people right now, I mean, I haven't actually entered Necrotic Wake since they changed this, but people were telling me that like once you start getting a high enough level of keys, it's hard to be able to kill the Abomination and then be able to do any amount of damage to Stitch Flesh himself. And in addition to that, he's like leaping up over and over again. So it's like you reach a level where you're not in equilibrium where you're not actually able to kill the Abomination while doing any damage to Stitch Flesh. So it just becomes a problem.
Right, like there can be these spots where like you could have a 2-minute Stitch Flesh fight, and then if you double the health on the Abomination and the boss, instead of doubling the time in the fight gets like quintupled. Right, it becomes a 10-minute fight because you barely have any damage left because you add way more instances of the thing happening, way more phases.
Well, because you can't have 2 Abominations out because they just smoke your tank. Like your tank actually just dies to those, right, Trell? Like those do actually just insane amount of tank damage.
Each one hits the tank for like half their health with their pretty often tank hit, and then also when the boss comes down, he also does a tank hit for like half your health. So you have 3 mobs that just kill you on cooldown every 3 seconds.
Okay, in addition to Necrotic Wake stuff, we also have a bunch of dungeons got changes here. Some notable, the largest entry here is for Theater of Pain, and it looks like these are all nerfs, some of which are pretty substantial. What do you guys think about this set of changes?
A lot of these are like tank damage nerfs, right, Trell?
Yeah, there was a lot of tank hits. It's funny, like every time I release a video on a dungeon, everything gets nerfed and makes it irrelevant. But so all these are good changes, I think.
Yeah, like a lot of these dungeons had like really big tank busters, like this Jagged Gash and like Hateful Strike. Dude, I don't know what it is on Gore Chop, but I feel like my tank gets murked by that boss like every single time. So they nerfed a lot of tank damage abilities. Just aside from that, okay, I have a question about the Swift Strikes, Trell. Is that supposed to be able to hit people from like 35 yards away?
It doesn't seem like it when you read the tooltip, but apparently, yeah, it just like it's like a giant blade flurry from a rogue.
So
a 35-yard blade flurry.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
So like I'll be standing. Okay, so say Trell's like tanking the mob here. I'll be standing here like 35 yards away and literally just getting smoked by the sweeping strikes and just like, wait, what?
Yeah, it's like a melee attack too. It's super weird. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's the guy. There's like 6 different mini bosses or something that have a potential spawn in Theater of Pain, and you have to kill 3 of them to get to the boss of that certain wing. And Wreck is the only one that's the guy that does Swift Strikes. He's the only one that's really scary, and he has like 2 ridiculously hitting hard abilities. So don't get that guy. Get the other mini boss.
RNG, baby.
Makes sense. Always a smart play against these sorts of abilities. All right, so that's a look at some of the Shadowlands dungeon tuning. let's move on to our final topic of the day, conduits. So since our last episode, we've had, or maybe since the one before then, we've had conduit ranks and the corresponding item levels be, I guess, discovered or announced or data mined. I never have any idea what's been said by Blizzard and what's been data mined. It looks like this has mostly been data mined.
It's data mined, yeah.
Yeah. And I guess discovered on beta since then.
It's all just set by Squishy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So here's that the table of conduit ranks to item levels. The big thing here is 7 at 220. So rank 7 conduits, 226 item level. That's like the highest item level that you can get from Mythic, Raid, and PvP and M+ in Castle Nathria season, except for the last two bosses of Nathria, which will be slightly higher item level.
Yeah.
So the speculation is that this is where our conduits will stop for this patch, right? And then,
well, nobody knows is the problem.
yes, it's not confirmed, but on the Shadowlands beta as well, then we have the different sources for the different conduits. So like rank 1 ones, presumably like low renown world quests. Rank 2 conduits, normal dungeons, confirmed in Dungeon Journal. Rank 3 conduits, heroic dungeons. Rank 4 conduits, mythic dungeons. Rank 5 conduits, M7 through 10, and also potentially normal Nathria. Rank 6 conduits, M15, and also potentially heroic Nathria. And then rank 7 conduits, looks like mythic Nathria would be the place that these would drop from. Unconfirmed.
I think it has to be. I think it has to be weekly vault. Like that's the only thing that makes sense. Like, how would you get mythic plus conduits if it's not via the weekly vault? Would you be okay with some conduits from Raid just having that disparity of being able to acquire them at rank 7, where some of them only max out at rank 6? Well, I think the answer is probably not.
Isn't there like a Torghast item thing that you can buy that upgrades your lowest rank conduit by 1 rank? So doesn't that theoretically mean if you get all your rank 6 conduits, then you can use that to up all of them randomly, slowly to rank 7s?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. It's got to be either the weekly vault or only mythic raid.
Hopefully there's a way that is not total awfulness to get these rank 7s from M+ or PvP.
I think that rank 7 may not be available.
Right. It's possible that they just won't. It's possible that the raid will not have conduit drops, or the conduit drops will be like a rank lower than speculated here and more freely available. And that will be the way that the thing is drawn. But one could certainly imagine a system here where raiders have their conduits. The first week of Mythic or whatever, they have a pretty full conduit setup. Or the second week of Mythic, whenever you've killed 4 or 5 bosses in the raid or whatever, and then M+ers are waiting a couple months to do it. Whatever peasant mode exists for M+ers to get conduits, which
well, it's just like you don't even get your best. The problem is that you don't even get your best conduit like out of it. It's not you're actually picking what conduit comes from where.
Right.
It just drops from a boss, or it drops from a specific dungeon or a specific thing, right? And it's not like you actually have any agency.
It's like essences, right? Where it's like
crafted this. No. It's not that you crafted it from like a reagent for that drop from raid. It's that they picked a boss arbitrarily and they said, "Oh, conduit."
It's like essences where like which ones dropped from which forms of content did not correspond to where you actually wanted to use them in, right? It's like, okay, Blood of the Enemy, BIS for dungeons drops from battlegrounds, right? Vitality Conduit, BIS for PvP drops from Queen Ajar, Ajar's Eternal Palace or whatever, right? So conduits are similar in that way, where like you're kind of rolling the dice and hoping that your conduit has the same source as its use case, and some of them will fall into that category, and others will very much not.
But conduits like coming out of the vault is also problematic, because then that reduces, like, basically if you see, okay, if you're a Mythic Plus only player and you see your conduit drop, you have to select that. Like, you don't actually have a choice. Which would hugely nerf the, like, I was talking last week about the Great Vault being a massive buff to acquisition of, a gear set for M+ players compared to just getting your 1 item per week. If conduits get thrown into that Great Vault and you need to use your 1 pick on a conduit or an item, we're going to a dystopian future scenario. I don't know. Yeah. I don't know how. We don't know enough about how to obtain rank 7 conduits yet to be able to make
Yeah,
a
it's
great,
pure
a great
speculation.
educated guess. Yeah.
One thing that,
interesting
yeah, good.
is also that this is the first time I think we've had an eye level system on something that doesn't actually affect your character's item level overall at all. Like it's completely separate. It's in your soulbind tree, and so if you're applying to a group and you're eye level 200, but you have like a BIS rank 6 conduit in your soulbind, nobody can see that.
Dude,
I
so
guess that's fair.
you're just looking at your Great Vault and you're like, okay, this is a 5% upgrade and this is a 3% upgrade, but it'll upgrade my character sheet item level and make it easier to get into groups. So I selected this item. Ah, yes.
That's actually, the only thing I can even think of that like equates is like the weapon.
Right. Well, it's already been like that. Where like
the Legion weapon things. I don't remember. What the
well,
hell
those
they're called.
upgraded your
The relics. Yeah,
those
they gave you
upgraded
item
your weapon's eye level just
Yeah, exactly.
at a
But
different
that's-
ratio.
Exactly, but
Yeah.
they actually gave you tangible upgrade on your weapon island level.
But I mean, it's always been kind of been true, right? Like if you get a 50 item level upgrade on your bracers, or a 60 item level upgrade, or I guess a 50 item level upgrade on your bracers, or a 40 item level upgrade on your chest, right? The 40 item level upgrade on your chest was more. That's more stat.
Yeah. It's more damage, yeah.
But it'll upgrade your character sheet by less. So I don't know. I mean, if you're optimizing for character sheet item level, I don't know what to tell you, man. It's the system's always had some weird incentives, and it's a stupid thing to be. It's a stupid thing to be incentivized anyway.
It's a mad
Yeah.
world.
Yeah,
I just think it's interesting.
yeah, I agree. I agree. It's a cool tidbit. Okay, so yeah, I guess that's kind of all we know about conduits, right? Like it's largely speculation and hopes. Again, my hope is just that it is reasonable for M plus only or PvP only players. I'm not saying that you have to get your conduits as fast as raiders. Like I think raid player, particularly like high end raiders, getting their gear, getting their conduit sets in like a week when it takes M plus players a month or whatever that kind of disparity is somewhat reasonable. But you know, if the conduits add to that total time instead of being done in parallel with the other gearing that M plusers are trying to do, that's when like if it's consecutive sentences instead of sentences served at the same time, it's a lot worse.
Well, we know for a fact that the conduits do not affect the loot that you would have otherwise have gained from Mythic Plus or from raid boss drops.
When a conduit is a drop from a boss or a dungeon or whatever, anything like that, it is a separate role and not impactful with the other stuff. And there will only ever be one conduit per boss, they've said, right? So it's like you're not going to be in the situation where like a balance druid has two conduits on a boss and whereas the warlock only has one, and so the druid is rolling 50-50, whereas the warlock gets a guaranteed seize if one drops from the boss.
Oh, dude. We still don't know where half the legendaries drop from either.
Oh, yes.
Oh, are they not listed on some classes?
Druid still does not have any idea where you can get Arcanic Pulsar or Balance of All Things, which are the two best Balance Druid legendaries, and I'm concerned that it's going to be from Rated Arena or Battlegrounds. Maybe
Dude, I hope they send you back to like
upset.
grind Scholomance 50 times.
Can you imagine if I have to? Can you imagine if I have to do BGs for honor again to get a fucking legendary crafting recipe? I'm gonna be so sad.
Dude, I hope they make titles do some weird stuff. I hope
if it's Rated Arena, like I actually don't mind Rated Arena, so I could kind of get down with it. But like, damn, dude, if it's BGs again,
I hope that just week one of the patch, we're all just kind of doing fun stuff, and you just tune into TTV titles, and he's just like, he's just in Twin Peaks, and he's there just like watching his team just in Twin Peaks over and over again, and he's like, every single time that happens to him, it's like another hour that his legendary is further away, and you just see him like deflating like he is right now.
Just playing Mad World on repeat. Just looping the fucking songs.
Yeah, just like a week in, and you could just see like the final remnants of sanity have drained out of him, and he's just there like
show up on Titanforge, just like fucking my bags have bags, and I'm just like literally just a corpse.
Yeah, you're just still BGing. You're just like you're there. You're kind of like leaning back, and you're just like still moving your character around, doing your BGs because you can't afford to fall behind on your Arcanic Pulsar acquisition.
This is my life now.
I hope these Balance Druid legendaries are, you know how they keep adding these secrets for the secret finding Discord. I hope that this Balance Druid legendary is one of the ones where it just takes that Discord a year to find it.
That's so mean.
Yeah, that would be so epic.
We got to keep titles happy, man. We need our mounts in them off week one.
True. Yeah, I forgot. Sorry.
It's okay. My Twitter is. It's okay. My Twitter is Doomer Twitter these days, anyways.
Yeah, you just keep posting memes about
man.
Balance Druid being dead, which, you know, it's good. That's good content. Good place to be.
Yeah. It's great. It's great Twitter content.
All right. I think that'll about wrap up our main topics for today. Let's get to some questions and answers. But first, we need to thank our supporters at patreon.com for making our show possible. They are, here we go, Paul of US Proudmore, Give 69 to Trell, which is, I think, a reference to an amount of gifted subs you received recently.
It's actually
Congratulations.
not the usual 69 reference for the record.
Yeah, congratulations.
Nice,
Just
Trell.
a completely randomly picked number, I'm sure.
Nice job, Trell.
I hear it's 51.39 if you're in Snow, Mexico.
That's
not like
69 in Canadian dollars.
Ah, okay. It's Snow, Mexico is Canada because it's snowy. It's the other side. Yeah, okay. That makes sense. Okay, NA. I get it.
If you convert $69 to CAD, it's 51.
Of course, yeah, it's the exchange rate. Yeah. That makes sense. Dude, our patrons are like coordinating memes with each other. Hey Patreons, thanks for making BFA a good time. Go for Thanks TFP and all the Go for Thanks TFP, that's us, and all the Patreons for a good time in BFA. Thanks to Sean Gill, I'm considering re-rolling Bear for Shadowlands, King of Skills, Zuko, Jaw, Drunk Swede from Legion of Lemmings, Argent Donnie U, I Wish I Was Dranos' Dino Pillow, Chromed, Seraphicus, Trekkie, The Marshare, Regulus, Never Nude, Chewy. Big shout out to all the people in the last like 30 seconds for the consistent names. I've been getting that section down faster and faster every time. You guys own. Then troubling in-game testing agitated numerous fans over raids. GG expansion delayed, or Titanforged. Thanks, Trell,
Man,
for
he
all the
is
good
so good at
contact.
the-
Yeah, dude, there's a new acronym there every week. Thanks, Trell, for all the good contact. I mean, I wonder if that's like content, or is that, or if that's
Yeah, that was a mistype in our Discord the other day.
okay. Tettles is hella sus, boys. True.
Not correct.
Tettles is so sus, man.
I'm innocent. I wasn't there, bro.
Let's airlock him.
I was benched.
Okay, that's a good argument, man. Could you imagine? Just anytime you're playing Among Us, I was like, I can't be me, man. I was on the bench.
I was benched, yeah. dude, they blocked me in the admin.
Or Tettles, dude, Tettles just gets imposter and he just clicks his kill button and it just does moonkin damage and the guy doesn't die. You're just there and just like star surges him and the guy just like keeps
Just
living.
hurts him.
Yeah.
He runs away.
Health bar
and calls
doesn't
an
move.
emergency meeting.
Yeah. Calls an emergency meeting. He's like, hey guys, Tettles is the imposter, but like, man, he's harmless. You know, we don't need to airlock him. what's he gonna do? Shapeshift at us? Second attempt alliance, NA, now 12 out of 12 mythic. Sen of ES Kill Jaden. Daz Boot, better Mage League than Tal. Brought to you by Dranos the Excel Wizard. Brad Ceratops. Gino, the 24th best DH on Thrall. Necris is wondering when Tettles will reroll to tank so the show can be called the Tankenforge podcast.
I already play tank. You don't understand.
We have so many tank players in our Discord. There's actually a tank discussion every time I tune into our Discord. It's so fun.
Will Blizzard care about balance, class identity, and agency? Shadow Priest can pump if you chain pull, just give him a chance. Nevuk, Sinmora, Eevee, Frosty K, new meta. Stevenson thinks Tettles is fun like Tratnos, but not as creepy, and informative like Trell, but not as good at the game. Yeah, we read this one last week. The triple flame potentially.
Yep, triple flame.
Take Light of the Protector and Rage Regen off the GCD. Woe Bonesy no verse. No trick. Vamp of Storm Rage. I unscheduled a Tettles Flame. That's not possible anymore, by the way. I've removed that channel point reward.
Why did you remove that? Wait a second.
I removed, dude. My channel. I haven't streamed yet, but when with this new settings, but I now all my channel point rewards now play audio clips on my stream. It's gonna be so lit. It's gonna be so hype.
Okay.
Yeah. Farewell Balance Druid. Hello Warlock. True. Shadowlands was delayed so that Guardian could get even more buffs. Maybe. Dymat. Syncope. Gamer Dad in Training. Thank you for making BFA amusing and informational. Heltari, Ishio, Dream Team can time any key as long as it's Junkyard. Hanny is going to pump in Shadowlands. Nyx, Xylic. My brother needs to play more and stop being a noob. Flick LF Rating Guild for Shadowlands. Dude, you're not alone. Rating guilds right now are so... every guild is so full right now, actually. It's wild out there. Although I'm sure spots will open up after the first tier, so that'll be a good time to be looking. Still waiting for buffs to the laser turkeys and
Same.
Gallic. Thanks to all of you for the support. Much appreciated.
Please fucking one buff, dude.
Yeah, shout out to our Patreons. We love you guys.
Big shout outs. All right, let's move on to Q&A. Our first one comes from Riley in Discord, who asks, with Shadowlands being delayed and a potentially long pre-patch, do you foresee more guild shakeups and people moving around? I guess I'll answer first, because like from my guild's perspective, I don't foresee much of an impact of this. It's kind of just like a couple more weeks where I guess we're probably not going to raid all these weeks anyway. Like we were kind of planning to raid when pre-patch was just going to be 3 weeks long. We were going to raid like 2 of them and take 1 off. Now if pre-patch is like 8 weeks long, we'll probably still raid 2 of them and take 6 of them off or something. I don't know. But for other guilds, I think that there are going to be some guilds that people like get bored, I guess, and maybe quit. But I don't know. I feel like most guilds that have like a roster are probably the people in right now are already just waiting for Shadowlands, right? So like waiting a little longer isn't going to change things. The one thing I could foresee shaking stuff up is like if people were planning to hit that raid release time, and like now, particularly if it comes out over the holidays, some folks might be, scuffed as a result of that. So I don't know. My answer for this though is mostly no. I don't expect much is going to change for most guilds.
I mean, at this point, like I don't know why your guild would change very much. I mean, most of the turnover happens between expansions, right? So like after your progression was done, I would have expected more turnover.
Right, between like tiers, right? Or within tiers, not when there's nothing going on. Yeah.
Exactly. Not going from pre-patch to like a launch. I mean, that wouldn't really make much sense.
Mm-hmm. All right, next question comes from Takivi on Discord, who asks, here's a question. You can go full tinfoil hat on. Which dungeon would you like to see revamped and tuned for M+? So this is presumably any dungeon that doesn't exist in M+ yet. Go, Joel. Okay, I thought you were trying to say something.
I thought you meant Shadowlands at first, but then I realized you meant like an old existing dungeon.
Yeah, I think revamped and tuned for M+ means it's something like we had that question last week about like what do we want to get the Karazhan treatment, right? But this could just be any of them.
Totally. No, not totally.
The Oculus. You guys remember the Oculus?
Shut up.
Vehicle combat. Any vehicle combaters?
Violet Hold.
Yes. Not Violet Hold. The dungeon they literally released in the M+ expansion and did not make an M+ version of because it was so incompatible with the concept.
Black Morass? Is that the swamp one?
Black Morass, that was my expansion. Black Morass, the Oculus, and Violet Hold those were 3 dungeons on my list of dungeons that would not be impacted by the AoE cap at all.
True.
That's true. It's a true story. There's literally not a way to pull more than like 5 guys in any of those dungeons. You can't do it.
For me, I think it would probably be one of the Warlords dungeons. I actually really like Iron Docks. I think that one was actually a pretty sick dungeon.
Yeah, I was thinking about that.
I was thinking Grimrail Depot, but I think Grimrail Depot would be too imbalanced, especially like the second, like and third boss area. I feel like that one would be like pretty problematic. I think Iron Docks was like a sick dungeon.
All right, next question comes from Rafane in Twitch chat, who asks, why was Trell just having a beer pong match in his living room? And yeah, we can see that table behind him.
I had a pretty fun night. I had a friend over. It's all
very cool.
Fuck.
Actually, this thing's pretty cheap. If you guys are ever reliving the college days and want to have a beer pong match, you can actually buy these tables for like $60 to $80.
Wow.
And they're transportable. They're not.
Wow, Trell. You're so wise, cool, and economically efficient. What does it take to become like a 28-year-old man like you?
What?
Dude, Charles just that how do you do, fellow kids?
How do you do, fellow kids? I play beer pong as well, fellow children.
Man, I've only been out of college for a few years. I don't want to hear.
Next question comes from Versify, also in Twitch chat, who asks, another question, how many more subsequent Moonkin nerfs will it take for Tettles to play Hunter for 9.0?
I
think he's committed, man. I think he's committed.
Part of the problem is that I like have to commit to playing. Like, we've set up our like raid roster to where like myself and another person are playing Moonkin. We have like 3 Warlocks. We have 2 Shadow Priests. We have 3 Mages. We have 3 Hunters. And it's like, for me to swap to something else, am I going to swap to Ellie? No. I'm not fucking swapping to Ellie. I'm gonna sit on the bench with my dignity, and yeah, just stay there. So I don't know. Maybe they'll just buff Moonkin, and I won't have to be benched. But if Moonkin is so bad that it's unplayable, I may end up playing it after progression, but not in the immediate future.
All right, our last question comes from Cardinarch, who says, question mostly at Trell. We've been hearing conflicting information on the current state of tanks on beta. Some are saying tanks are overpowered across the board, and I hear from high end that tanks are in a very rough spot right now. What are your thoughts on this?
That's actually a pretty good question. So the math actually states that tanks tuning right now, first of all, it's actually pretty even for the most part on beta. Most of the higher powered tanks got nerfed recently, and they're all around the same power level, just have different weaknesses. So that being said, the power level of tanks at this item level compared to BFA at the relatively same item level are just weaker across the board. Like tanks are always weak at the beginning of patches, at the beginning of expansions rather. But this time it's like worse than ever, at least since the time I've played WoW. And so
worse than beginning patches, even?
Yes, like worse than 8.0? Okay.
Yeah, it's worse than 8.0.
Okay.
So tanks just have less survivability power, basically, overall, for the people that have done the math. And so that's why we all feel this way. We feel that our classes just can't do much for ourselves. Like we have to have a rogue and a hunter currently to get our threat for us, which is very frustrating. And we have to have a healer that can just tunnel us almost. So we like, not only can we not have threat for ourselves, which is part of our role as a tank, we can't heal ourselves either very well.
So why would you say that some people are saying that tanks are overpowered across the board? Do you think it's because the tank role is imbalanced? Like,
well, I think
tanks generally have more.
Maybe those are coming from tanks that are doing lower level content. I don't know. Like
maybe it's the damage numbers as well that like Vengeance and Paladin have been able to put out over some of the recent. Like so there have been some recent damage meters linked that look really high, really OP for those tanks, but like that's a different thing, right? Than like that's just tanks doing more damage than they should, right?
Tanks doing high damage because of trinkets or whatever is largely irrelevant to how tanks feel to play. And so that does make them like seem really powerful, on paper, but that's like the last priority for me as an experienced tank player is tank damage. Like that's the last thing you min max. First, you got to figure out how to survive, get threat, counter most situations you'll put yourself in, and then tank damage after that. Yeah,
one thing I think you hit on the start there, which is really encouraging, is the tank balance is looking good, and the balance. I would love to see the tank power level be higher across the board, but it is pretty flat between at least the top like 4 tank specs for both Raid and M+. It looks like there's a huge range of vibe. Like everything's looking very close to each other in terms of viability there, which that's cool. That's always good to see that. You're not going to be
but just as a role,
picking the wrong one. Yeah, as a role,
the EHP is the EHP or healing is like incredibly low. Interesting.
Yeah, it's definitely weird. It's a weird spot to be in as a tank player.
All right, and with that'll do it for us this week. We'll be back next week to discuss whatever next developments come out for Shadowlands, or maybe we'll do some kind of other episode. I don't know. We'll do something. But that'll be next week. That's going to be all for us this week. Later, everybody.